Hey, welcome to our channel. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss our latest content.
I let the silk robe fall from my shoulders, letting it pool at my feet like a whisper. The air in the bathroom was warm, still clinging to the steam from my shower. I stood before the full-length mirror, naked, and felt nothing but a calm sense of purpose. This was my ritual, my ceremony. My eyes traced the lines of my own body, not with vanity, but with the critical eye of an artist preparing her canvas. My neck, smooth and pale. My lips, full and waiting for their color. My hair, still damp at the roots, falling in dark waves around my face. Everything was a component, a piece of the performance. I reached for the perfume. Not my everyday scent, the light, floral one that Silas liked. This was different, deeper, something with notes of amber and something wilder, something you couldn't quite name. I saved it for these moments. For him, 2 sprays. One on my throat, the other on my wrists. I stepped back, closed my eyes for a beat, and tested the air with a slow turn of my head. Perfect. It settled around me like a second skin, a secret identity. Satisfied, I walked into the bedroom. The dresser drawer slid open without a sound. Beneath the practical cottons and soft silks for my daily life, my real life, was another collection, the one Silas had never seen. I chose the lace. Deep crimson. It was new. Declan hadn't seen it either. As I slipped it on, feeling the delicate fabric against my skin, my gaze fell to the phone resting on the nightstand, next to my hairbrush. The screen was dark, but I knew what was waiting. A single, pinned message. Room 802. I'm already here. My fingers moved with practiced ease. I woke the screen, sent back a single, playful emoji, a winking face, and then held my finger down on the conversation. The option appeared. Delete chat. I confirmed without hesitation. Then, into settings, notifications off, silence everything. The phone, now a clean slate, a silent accomplice, dropped into the tiny clutch I'd chosen for the evening. It was a dance, a meticulously choreographed performance, and every step was flawless. I found Silas in the kitchen, stirring a pot on the stove. The scent of garlic and simmering tomatoes filled the air. It was a comforting smell, a domestic smell, a smell from a life that felt, in these moments, like a well-acted play. He turned when he heard me, a wooden spoon in his hand, and a smile spread across his face. It was a genuine smile. A kind smile. That was the thing about Silas. He was kind. Always. Wow, he said, his eyes taking in my dress. You look incredible, Corinne. Are you sure this company event is going to run so late? I smiled back, a perfectly natural curve of my lips. I'd rehearsed this. Not the words, but the feeling behind them. Effortless. You know how these new product launches are. The new marketing director is thorough. I might be back after midnight, depending on his presentation. He nodded, turning back to the sauce. All right, just be careful driving home. He glanced over his shoulder. Good luck. Thanks, love. I walked over, leaned in, and gave him a soft kiss on the cheek. His skin was warm. He smelled like home. I lingered for just a second, the artist admiring her own handiwork. Then I pulled away, grabbing my purse and keys from the counter. I left with the quiet confidence of someone who knew, with absolute certainty, that everything was under her complete control. The moment the front door clicked shut behind me, I took a deep breath. The performance was over. The real night was about to begin. In the car, I didn't turn on the news or a podcast. I put on an upbeat, pulsing playlist. Music that made my blood hum. I drove toward the hotel, not with the hurried anxiety of a cheater, but with the eager anticipation of a queen heading to her throne. I knew the route by heart. Avoided the main entrance. Slipped into the underground parking garage and found a spot in the far corner, away from the elevators most guests used. There was a service elevator, a small, discreet metal box we had discovered months ago. It was our agreement, a way to avoid the lobby, to avoid curious eyes. To keep the game clean, he was waiting. The door to room 802 opened before I even finished knocking. Declan stood there, a wide, hungry smile on his face. He wore the denim shirt I'd told him I liked, sleeves rolled up his forearms. He started to say my name, but I didn't give him the chance. I stepped inside without a word, pushed him back against the wall, and kissed him. Hard. This was it. This was the part that thrilled me most. While kicking off my heels, I looked him in the eyes. Get that shirt off. Now, you won. It wasn't just about the sex. It was about this moment, the dizzying rush of absolute power, being exactly where I wanted to be, with whom I wanted, at the very moment I chose. Silas was the board. Declan was a willing, handsome pawn. And I was the strategist, the player, the winner. An hour later, I was back in front of a mirror. This time, it was the brightly lit mirror of the hotel bathroom. I surveyed the damage. My lipstick was smudged, my hair slightly tousled, but my eyes were bright, alive. I opened my clutch. Inside was my second kit. The cleanup crew. Special wipes designed to remove long-lasting lipstick without a trace. Eye drops to erase any hint of fatigue, and most importantly, a neutral scent spray to mist over my hair and dress, erasing the last lingering notes of my secret perfume. With the precision of a surgeon, a ritual I had performed dozens of times, I erased every trace of Declan, every trace of room 802. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me, a lazy smile on his face. You take this all so seriously. I met his eyes in the reflection and smiled back. A real smile, but one he couldn't possibly understand. That's what keeps me free, Declan. Before leaving, I did one final sweep. I checked the floor for a stray earring, the bed for a forgotten hair tie. Nothing. I wiped my phone down with a dry cloth from my purse, a habit now, to remove any fingerprints that weren't mine. I adjusted my dress, fluffed my hair, and by the time I stepped back into that service elevator, the switch had been flipped. Wife mode activated. My face was calm. My eyes steady. My posture, that of a busy woman returning from a productive, if slightly boring, night of corporate networking. I got in the car. Before starting the engine, I took out a can of fabric freshener from the glove compartment and gave the interior a light spray. The scent was clean, generic. It smelled like nothing. I drove home with the radio off, in silence. My mind wasn't blank, it was rehearsing. What would I tell Silas if he was awake? Technical issues with the presentation. The buffet was delayed, the keynote speaker ran long. I had a dozen plausible stories, all ready to be deployed. But when I walked in, he was asleep on the couch, the TV murmuring softly in the background. An old movie was playing. He looked peaceful, innocent. For a fleeting second, a strange, unidentifiable emotion flickered inside me. I pushed it down. I turned off the TV, pulled the soft blanket from the back of the couch, and draped it over him. He shifted slightly, but didn't wake. I watched him for a moment, this good, steady man, this man who provided the foundation upon which I built my secret kingdom. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom. In our bathroom, I washed my face, brushed my teeth, and stared at my reflection one last time. I looked for any sign of guilt, any shadow of regret. There was nothing. This was already routine. It was already a part of me. I slipped into bed beside him, the sheets cool against my skin. I leaned over and whispered, "Good night, love." As if in a dream, Joel shifted, half asleep, and his hand found mine. He held it, his grip soft and familiar. I let him. I closed my eyes, a faint, satisfied smile on my lips. Another perfect day, I thought, and the game went on. For a while, the game was everything. It wasn't just about Declan. It was about the planning, the execution. The perfect lie. I began to see my life not as a single reality, but as two parallel projects, and I was the master architect of both. At home, I was the attentive wife. I'd remember to pick up the dry cleaning. Silas always forgot. I'd make his favorite meal on a random Tuesday, just because. I'd listen intently as he talked about his work, something to do with data analysis, numbers and patterns that I found profoundly dull but pretended to understand. I'd nod, ask the right questions, and play the part. And he, in turn, was the perfect husband. Predictable, stable. He never questioned me. When I said I had a late meeting, he'd say, "Okay, drive safe." When I said I was having drinks with colleagues, he'd say, "Have fun." His trust wasn't a gift. In my mind, it was a weakness, a blind spot. His calm, even nature, which I once found reassuring, now felt like a lack of passion, a sign that he wasn't really seeing me, the real, vibrant, complex me. He saw the wife, the partner, the routine. Declan, on the other hand, saw the woman, the fire. He was the exhilarating opposite of Silas. Impulsive, charming, and entirely focused on the present moment. Our time together was a bubble of pure intensity, free from the weight of mortgages and grocery lists. One evening, a few weeks after that night with the crimson lingerie, I was getting ready for another work dinner. As I was touching up my makeup, Silas was in his home office, the door slightly ajar. I could see him hunched over his laptop, the screen casting a blue glow on his face. He was scrolling through something, his expression completely neutral. "Working late?" I called out, my voice light. He glanced up, startled, as if pulled from a deep trance. "Oh, yeah, just cross-referencing some financial reports. It's nothing. Don't stay up too late," I said, blowing him a kiss from the doorway before heading out. Financial reports, of course. It was always something sensible, something boring. I dismissed it instantly. That was my mistake. I saw his quietness as apathy. I saw his routine as a lack of imagination. I never once considered that it could be something else entirely. Patience. The idea for the Portland trip came to me like a flash of genius. It was the next level of the game. A masterstroke. A local marketing firm was hosting a weekend-long digital media conference. It was a real event, which made the lie impenetrable. All I had to do was pretend to attend. I spent a week planning it. I booked a boutique hotel for myself online, a refundable one, which I would cancel at the last minute. Then, using a prepaid debit card I kept for these occasions, I booked a different, more intimate hotel for Declan and me under a fake name. I even printed out a fake conference itinerary. The details were what made a lie feel like the truth. Over dinner one night, I laid it all out for Silas. "So, there's this big conference in Portland next weekend," I began, swirling the wine in my glass. "It's a huge opportunity. Some of the biggest names in the industry will be there." He looked up from his plate, listening attentively. That was another thing about him. He always listened. "I'd have to leave Friday night," I continued, "since some of the key sessions start early Saturday morning. I'd be back Sunday evening." I watched his face, looking for any flicker of suspicion, any hint of doubt. There was none. He just nodded slowly, his expression as calm and supportive as ever. "That sounds great, Corinne. A good chance for you to network." He took a sip of water. "You should definitely go. Good luck." And that was it. No questions. No concerns. Just acceptance. A part of me felt a surge of triumph. It was too easy. The other, smaller part of me felt a strange pang of disappointment. Did I want him to question me? To fight for me? I pushed the thought away. It was ridiculous. This was what I wanted. Freedom. Control. The drive to Portland on Friday night was intoxicating. The city lights blurred past my window. As I sped down the highway, music turned up loud. This was more than just a weekend with my lover. This was a declaration of my independence, a testament to my own cleverness. When I arrived at the hotel, our hotel, Declan was already there. He opened the door, and the weekend began. For 2 full days, the world outside that room ceased to exist. We were careless, laughing, exploring the city by day, always sticking to neighborhoods where we wouldn't be recognized, and losing ourselves in each other by night. I took off my wedding ring and tucked it into a hidden pocket in my purse. For 48 hours, I wasn't Silas's wife. I was just Corinne. Or rather, the version of Corinne I wanted to be. On Sunday morning, while Declan was still asleep, I took my phone into the bathroom and made the call. "Hey, love," I said, my voice bright and cheerful. "Just leaving the hotel now. The closing keynote was streamed online, so I'm getting an early start. I should be home before dinner." His voice came through the speaker, as steady and even as always. "Okay, sounds good. See you soon." I hung up, a smile on my face. It was perfect. Another flawless performance. I felt invincible. I stared at my reflection in the hotel mirror, and the woman looking back was powerful, radiant, and utterly in charge of her own destiny. Or so I thought. The drive home was quiet. The adrenaline of the weekend had faded, replaced by a comfortable sense of accomplishment. I felt refreshed, energized. I had successfully navigated both of my worlds, keeping them perfectly separate, perfectly balanced. I pulled into the driveway just as the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The house was quiet. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, dropping my suitcase by the entrance. "Silas?" I called out. "I'm home." No answer. His car was in the driveway, so he had to be here. I walked through the living room and into the kitchen. And there, On the polished wood of our dining table was a single, black folder. It was sleek, professional, the kind he used for his work presentations. It seemed out of place. He was usually so tidy, never leaving work materials out. I walked over, my curiosity piqued. Maybe it was something he wanted me to look at. I set my purse down on the table beside it, a strange feeling of unease starting to creep up my spine. I couldn't explain it. It was just a folder. I took a deep breath, and I opened it. The first page was a single sheet of thick, official-looking paper. At the top, in stark, bold letters, were 2 words. My breath caught in my throat. My heart started hammering against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. I stared at the words, unable to process them. My eyes scanned the page, full names, dates, addresses, all filled in with meticulous precision. And there, at the bottom, was his signature. Firm. Unwavering. This had to be a mistake. A joke. A nightmare. My hands were trembling as I lifted the page. And then I saw the attachments. The first was a bank statement. Not for our joint account. It was for the prepaid debit card I used with Declan. The one I thought was untraceable. Every transaction was listed. A hotel booking in the city, dated 3 weeks ago. 2 tickets for a late-night movie. Dinner at a small, secluded restaurant downtown, and a reservation for the Rosewood Boutique Hotel in Portland, with a timestamp matching my arrival on Friday night. My blood ran cold. I flipped to the next page. It was a series of screenshots, text messages, my text messages to Declan, conversations I had deleted moments after sending them. Room 802. I'm already here. My winking emoji response. Plans for our weekend. Intimate words I thought were shared only between the 2 of us. All there, in black and white. How? How was this possible? I was so careful. I deleted everything, but it got worse. The final pages were photographs. Not blurry, grainy shots from a distance. They were sharp, clear, high-resolution images. There I was, laughing as I walked out of a hotel with Declan, his arm around my waist. There I was, holding his hand across a candlelit dinner table. There I was, kissing him in the underground parking garage, thinking no one could see us. The photos from Portland were the most damning. A picture of me, without my wedding ring, getting into Declan's car. A shot of us through a coffee shop window, my head resting on his shoulder. Each photo was time-stamped. Each one was a nail in the coffin of the life I had built. I felt the air leave my lungs. I sank into a chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. I flipped back through the pages, my mind racing, refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. Then, I reached the last page in the folder. It was blank, except for a single line, handwritten in Silas's neat, steady script. You're very good at hiding. I'm better at waiting. The world tilted on its axis. The control I cherished, the power I thought I wielded, it was all an illusion. A grand, elaborate fantasy. I wasn't the player. I wasn't even a piece on the board. I was the subject of an investigation, and the quiet, predictable man I had underestimated. The man I thought saw nothing. He had seen everything. Panic, pure, undiluted panic seized me. My first instinct was to run, but there was nowhere to go. My second was to erase, but the evidence was already printed, tangible, lying open on my dining room table like a post-mortem report on my marriage. My hands flew to my purse, fumbling for my phone. I had to see. I unlocked it, my fingers slipping on the screen. The photo gallery was clean. The message history was empty. The trash folder was cleared. I frantically checked my cloud backups, my email, anything I could think of. Nothing. Everything on my end was pristine, exactly as I had left it. So how? How did he get it? The question screamed in my mind. Had he hired someone? A private investigator? Was our computer bugged? My mind spun with paranoid possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. The meticulous strategist in me was being dismantled by the methodical patience of a man I never truly knew. I tried calling him. It rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. His voice, calm and recorded, was a chilling echo of the man I thought I knew. You've reached Silas. Please leave a message. I hung up without speaking. What could I possibly say? My next call was to Declan. He answered on the third ring, his voice casual. Hey, you. He knows, I whispered, my voice hoarse. Declan, he knows everything. There was a pause on the other end of the line. A long, heavy silence. What do you mean, he knows everything? Everything. The hotel in Portland, the messages, there are pictures. Declan, my voice was rising, bordering on hysterical. He left a folder. A divorce petition, it's all in there. Another silence. This one was different. It wasn't shocked. It was calculating. Okay, Corinne, he said finally, his tone now cool and distant. You need to calm down. Calm down? How can I calm down? My entire life is falling apart. Look, he said, his voice clipped. I think it's best if we stay apart for a while. Let this cool down. We shouldn't talk. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The thrill, the passion, the intense connection, I thought we had, it all evaporated in that single, cowardly sentence. I was no longer a prize to be won. I was a liability to be cut loose. Stay apart? I yelled into the phone. Is that all you have to say? I'm sorry, Corinne. I have to go. He hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, the dial tone buzzing in my ear. I was alone. Utterly and completely alone. I threw the phone onto the couch, a strangled sob escaping my lips. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of aimless pacing and frantic, circular thoughts. I tried to piece it together. When did he find out? How long had he known? How long had he been watching me, smiling that calm, steady smile, all while gathering the evidence that would destroy me? Every memory of his kindness over the past few months now felt like a cruel deception. His questions about my day, his patient listening, his good luck wishes, it was all part of his act. He wasn't the one being fooled. I was. That evening, out of a strange, desperate habit, I cooked dinner. I moved around the kitchen like an automaton, my mind numb. I made his favorite pasta. I even set his plate on the table, just like every other night. When he came home around 8, the key turning in the lock made me jump. He walked in, placed his briefcase by the door, and looked at me. His face was unreadable. There was no anger, no sadness, just nothing. A void. I ran to him. Silas? Can we please talk? He looked at the folder, still open on the table. There's no rush, he said, his voice impossibly even. The papers are already in motion. No, I pleaded, grabbing his arm. His muscles were tense beneath my fingers. Please, just give me a chance to explain. He finally looked me in the eyes then, and what I saw terrified me more than any rage would have. It was a profound, unshakable finality. You never noticed, Corinne, he said, his voice soft, almost gentle. I was here the whole time. Oh? He pulled his arm away, walked past me without another glance, and went upstairs. I was left standing in the middle of the room, holding a plate of cold food, unsure of when, exactly, the whole world had flipped upside down. For the first time, in as long as I could remember, control had slipped, completely and irrevocably, from my hands. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch for hours, the television on, the sound muted. The open folder on the table felt like a living presence in the room, exposing everything I had tried so hard to hide. The smell of the dinner I had cooked and then thrown away still hung in the air, making the silence feel even tighter. Every creak of the floorboards from upstairs made my heart leap. I waited for him to come down. I wanted him to yell, to scream, to break something. I wanted a fight, a confrontation. Anything would have been better than this suffocating absence. But he stayed upstairs. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I rose, my movements quiet, and climbed the stairs. I stopped at the half-open door to our bedroom. The light was on. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone as if it were just another Tuesday night. I walked in without asking. My arms were crossed, a feeble attempt to hold myself together. Don't you want to talk about this? He didn't look up. This isn't the moment, Corinne. Instead, when is the moment, Silas? My voice was shaking now. I hated it. I hated sounding so weak. Please, I can explain. It was a mistake. He finally set the phone on the nightstand, stood up calmly, and met my eyes. The emptiness was still there. You had every chance to tell me, he said, his voice flat. Every single day, you had a choice, and you chose the game. Now, live with the end. I tried to move closer, to touch him. You're the only one who matters, I whispered, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. It was all just a stupid mistake. He took a step back, away from me. He turned, opened the closet, and grabbed a change of clothes and a pillow. I'll sleep in the guest room, he said, as if discussing the weather. Then he walked out, closing the door softly behind him. I stood there, alone in the middle of our room, my hands trembling, my blood cold. I sat on the edge of the bed where he had just been sitting. I stared at my reflection in the vanity mirror for a few seconds, then lowered my head into my hands. It felt like a slow-motion nightmare. There was no shouting, no dramatic meltdown. There was something far worse. Absence. His indifference was a verdict. It wasn't contempt. Contempt would have meant I still mattered enough to be hated. This was closure. And as I lay down on that bed, the pillow next to me still carrying his faint, familiar scent, I understood something that no thrilling affair, no secret game, could ever have taught me. Losing someone in silence hurts more than any confrontation. In the weeks that followed, my life disintegrated while his simply continued. He was a ghost in the house until he found a new apartment. He moved his things out one Saturday while I was out, unable to bear watching. He left a note on the counter. "The lawyer will be in touch." I tried to piece together his new life from the scraps of information I could find. Mutual friends, when they spoke to me at all, would mention seeing him. He was fine. He kept going to work. He ate at the same corner diner for lunch. He replied to emails patiently. No one seemed to notice anything was wrong. He told no one what had happened. There were no dramatic announcements, no pleas for sympathy. It was as if he had simply rearranged his life. He carried no visible grudge. He spread no pain. He just moved on. Meanwhile, I was drowning in the chaos I thought I controlled. In a moment of desperation, I tried to rekindle things with Declan, but the thrill was gone. The secrecy, the risk, the game that had been the foundation of our connection. Without it, there was only emptiness. He was awkward, distant. We met once for coffee, and it was clear he just wanted to be sure I wouldn't drag him into my mess. After that, he stopped returning my calls. My days grew heavy. My nights dragged on. The mirror now showed a woman I barely recognized. Her eyes were dull, her face worn. The vibrant, powerful woman who commanded secret lives was gone. In her place was just a cheater who got caught. I would hold my phone for hours, wanting to text Silas. But what could I say? That I regretted it? That I was ashamed? He already knew, and he didn't care. I couldn't move on. The page was there, ready to be turned, but a huge stone was weighing it down. A stone made of everything I had once dismissed and now desperately wanted back. His patience, his respect, the calm, steady gaze of someone who loves quietly, but deeply. I tried to push that stone every day, but the harder I pushed, the heavier it felt. Regret and shame, those were my only companions now, the ones I had chosen, the ones I could no longer get rid of. And Silas just kept going. He was never the type of man who turned heads. He didn't have a loud charisma or hold court at parties. He was the man who listened more than he spoke, who kept promises, who showed up when he said he would. He was never extraordinary to the world, but he was a dignified man. And I finally understood that made all the difference. When he suspected, he didn't shout. He watched. When he knew for certain, he didn't seek to destroy me. He acted. He organized every piece of proof, mapped his own exit, and at the right moment, he simply turned the key and walked away. For him, I wasn't a mistake to be avenged. I was simply a chapter that needed to end. And it ended. No spectacle, no dramatic farewell. Just another page turned in the quiet, steady journey of his life. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.